Have you ever wondered why being the nice guy never seems to work? You held the door open. You texted first. You listened, supported, protected. You did everything they told you a good man should do. And yet she still left. Or worse, she stayed and slowly withdrew, emotionally vanishing before your eyes. You were told that love rewards kindness, that vulnerability builds connection, that a woman would choose the man who made her feel safe, seen, and adored. But in the quiet aftermath of rejection, you began to question everything. Why does she run toward the man who doesn't text back? Why does indifference ignite her desire while devotion dims it? This isn't just your story, it's a pattern. A lie dressed up as virtue. From childhood, you were programmed to believe that your goodness was enough. That if you just loved harder, gave more, softened more, you'd be chosen. But the real world isn't built on fairy tales. It's built on polarity, on tension, on instinct. And that version of masculinity you were taught to perform, it wasn't meant to empower you. It was meant to tame you. This video isn't here to comfort you. It's here to wake you up, to help you see what you were never supposed to see. And once you do, you'll never look at love the same way again. They told you to be kind. They told you to be soft. That a woman wants a man who listens, who comforts, who never raises his voice and always says the right thing. They told you that if you just became her peace, her provider, her protector, love would follow. And you believed them. So you showed up with flowers. You remembered her favorite coffee order. You offered your heart first. But what did it earn you? Silence, ghosting, confusion, or worse, being seen as sweet but never desired. What they didn't tell you was this: the good man script you were handed wasn't designed for attraction. It was designed for acceptance. And that's not the same thing. You were taught to earn love through obedience, to bend yourself into someone who's easy to love. But real love doesn't come from being easy. It comes from being real. That's the lie they never warned you about. That softness without strength isn't romantic, it's repelling. That emotional availability, when given too soon, reads not as depth, but as desperation. The modern man is waking up. He's beginning to see that everything he was praised for is the very thing that made him invisible. And now it's time to unlearn and reclaim. They told you women wanted sensitivity, that if you just opened up more, gave more, felt more, you'd win her heart. But what they didn't tell you is this: women aren't drawn to goodness, they're drawn to gravity. The kind that pulls her in without asking. The kind that makes her question herself, not because you're manipulative, but because you're unshakable. What she truly desires isn't emotional transparency, it's emotional power. A man who owns the room by presence, not noise. A man who doesn't need her admiration to feel whole. That's the man who lives in her fantasies, not the one texting good morning every day like clockwork. You thought being kind would make her feel safe. But kindness without depth is just a blanket warm yes, but forgettable. She doesn't crave comfort. She craves command, direction, polarity. A masculine energy so centered that her chaos can swirl around it without moving it. She'll never tell you this, not because she's hiding it, but because it's instinctive, primal. She feels it before she understands it. And when a man shows up in full command of himself, not loud, not forceful, just grounded, she feels something ancient, something sacred. And in that moment, desire is no longer a choice, it's a gravitational pull. You were raised to believe that chasing a woman was noble, that love was a pursuit, a race to prove your worth. So you ran, you texted, first planned the dates, adjusted your schedule, sacrificed your needs, all in the name of being the one who shows he cares. But every step you took forward, she took 2 steps back, and you didn't understand why. The truth. The moment you chase you, place her above you. You flip the polarity. You tell her, You are the prize and I must earn you. And in doing so, you betray yourself. You surrender the mystery. You dissolve the tension. You become predictable, and predictable men don't spark fire, they put it out. What you don't realize is that true desire flows in the opposite direction of need. When you chase, she feels your neediness, not your power. She feels pursuit, not presence. But when you stop running, when you stand grounded in your own worth, the dynamic shifts. You become the gravity she orbits, the mountain she can't shake. She doesn't fall for the man who begs to be chosen. She falls for the man who doesn't need to be. That's the paradox of desire. You win, not by chasing her heart, but by embodying your own. You thought effort would win her. You believed that consistency, attention, and investment were the currency of love. So you doubled down. More messages, more compliments, more favors. You told yourself, she just doesn't see yet. But she will, once I prove how much I care. But what you didn't realize is, these women don't fall for effort. They fall for energy. It's not how hard you try that captivates her. It's what your presence communicates without trying. You can't earn desire by giving more. You ignite it by being more anchored, more unbothered, more centered in your own gravity. The tragedy is that men pour their soul into effort while draining their masculine essence in the process. You think she'll feel closer if you explain everything, express more emotion, show every layer. But words don't awaken attraction. Mystery does. Your predictability doesn't reassure her. It bores her. She doesn't want a man who tries to win her. She wants a man she can't quite figure out. A man whose silence speaks louder than his compliments. The one who doesn't flinch, who doesn't need her validation to feel real. That's the man who lives in her mind long after the effort-driven ones have faded. Because energy is unforgettable, effort is forgettable. You believed love was fair. That if you gave your best, stayed loyal, opened your heart, and showed consistency, she would return it in kind. You saw love as an equal exchange, a balance of giving and receiving. But what you discovered instead was something colder, more unsettling. Love is not fair. It's a power game, not out of cruelty, but out of instinct. Beneath the romance and the sweet words, there's a current running deeper, a psychological rhythm of who needs less, who holds more tension, who controls the pace of intimacy. The one who gives more emotionally, physically, spiritually becomes the one who feels the void when it's not reciprocated. And in that imbalance, power is born. You think you're building a connection when you confess, first text, first reveal your feelings, but often you're just showing your hand too soon. She, whether consciously or not, learns how to shape you, how to hold emotional leverage. Not to hurt you, but to assess your center. She's not looking for partnership, she's measuring strength. And when you lead with emotional need rather than anchored presence, you lose the frame. Because the one who withholds, who maintains inner abundance, sets the emotional tempo. And in love, the one who controls the tempo, controls the outcome. You thought opening up early would build trust. You thought sharing your wounds, your fears, your past, your pain would bring her closer, that vulnerability would fast-track connection. But what you didn't realize is, this oversharing isn't intimacy, it's surrender. And not the kind that deepens love, but the kind that gives away your power. You were handing over a manual to your soul before she even asked for it. Every secret, every insecurity, every unmet need became a map. A roadmap not to your heart, but to your weakness. And the chase ended the moment she could read you like a script. You thought it made you deep, but to her it made you transparent, predictable, emotionally exposed. Not because she's cruel, but because mystery is what creates tension. Desire doesn't bloom from over-explaining, it blooms from curiosity, from wondering what you're not saying, what you hold back. A man who reveals himself too soon forfeits the tension that attraction depends on. He becomes a mirror, not a mystery. And women don't crave mirrors, they crave the unknown. That's the cruel irony in your attempt to connect. You killed the very polarity that makes connection exciting. She can't chase what she already holds, and she won't desire what she already understands. She doesn't want to see her reflection in you. She wants to feel your gravity, your stillness, your center. That's the paradox few men understand when you reflect a woman's emotions, when you try to match her energy, her fears, her spirals. You think you're connecting, but you're actually dissolving. You become her mirror, and mirrors are easy to look into, but just as easy to walk away from. What she craves isn't emotional mimicry, it's masculine certainty. The kind of presence that doesn't flinch when she storms, doesn't beg when she pulls away, doesn't collapse when she cries. In her chaos, she isn't seeking control, she's seeking containment. Not restriction, but reassurance that something can hold its form when she cannot. That's where masculine polarity lives, not in softness, but in structure. Not in agreeing, but in anchoring. She doesn't want a man who feels everything she feels. She wants a man who can hold what she feels without being swallowed by it. When you stop mirroring her and start embodying yourself fully, unapologetically, she feels something rare, safety. Not the comfort of being coddled, but the deeper safety of knowing you won't disappear into her. You become her mountain. And mountains don't move for storms, they endure them. You were told to meet her halfway, to compromise, to be emotionally available, balanced, and fair. But attraction doesn't live in balance, it lives in contrast. You are not supposed to mirror her emotionality. You are not meant to be her emotional twin. She is the wave, you are the rock. She flows, you hold. That is polarity. That is what ignites desire, not sameness, but difference. When you abandon your masculine frame to meet her in softness, you dissolve the very tension that draws her in. You think you're connecting by becoming more like her, but in truth, you're becoming invisible. She doesn't want another version of herself in a man's body. She doesn't want you to reflect her moods, mirror her doubt, or respond with emotional overexposure. She wants to feel your edge, your ability to stay still when she spirals, to remain clear when she becomes cloudy. Masculine polarity isn't about being dominant, it's about being defined. And when you blur those lines, when you try to become emotionally fluid to make her feel comfortable, she stops feeling your presence altogether. She doesn't test your softness, she tests your strength. And if your center shifts every time she pushes, she won't feel safe to be feminine. Because polarity dies where sameness begins. You think she's punishing you. That her silence, her mood swings, her sudden distance are signs that you've done something wrong. So you respond like most men do. You apologize, you over-explain, you try to fix it. But here's what you don't know. She's not punishing you, she's testing you. And not consciously, not with malice, but with instinct. The feminine tests not to destroy, but to verify, to measure, to feel in her bones that the man standing in front of her can hold his frame under pressure. She doesn't test because she wants you to fail. She tests because she needs to feel safe in your strength, not just when things are easy, but when they're stormy. Her emotions will shift. Her energy will rise and fall. But what she's searching for, what her unconscious needs, is to feel that you don't shift with her, that your center remains unshaken, that your confidence isn't conditional. You think being nice will win her back. But niceness without backbone breeds contempt. Because the moment she knows she can emotionally control you, she loses respect. And once respect dies, desire follows. The man who anchors through her chaos, who holds the line without raising his voice, that's the man she can trust and the man she'll crave. You've been taught that if you focus on her, she'll focus on you. That if you make her your priority, she'll make you hers. But that's not how desire works. It doesn't grow in the shadow of obsession. It thrives in the presence of abundance. A man who has purpose, direction, mission, that's the man who draws her in. Not because he's trying to impress her, but because he's not trying at all. He's already full. His cup overflows. His energy doesn't chase, it attracts. When your world is centered around her, she becomes your sun. And that might feel romantic, but it's not magnetic, it's dependent. She doesn't want to be the reason you breathe. She wants to feel the pull of a man who breathes deeply with or without her. That's what creates gravity, the silent power of a man immersed in his calling, the stillness of someone who doesn't need to be needed. She starts asking questions. Where does he go? What drives him? Why isn't he obsessed with me like the others? And in that mystery, that emotional spaciousness, you become unforgettable. Because you no longer orbit her, she begins to orbit you, not out of control, but out of irresistible unconscious desire. Abundance isn't just attractive, it's gravitational. In a world flooded with men seeking validation, the one who withholds becomes the one she remembers. You've been taught that showing up, constantly being available, responsive, eager proves your devotion. But in reality, it proves something else, that you are common. And what is common is overlooked. What is always there loses value. She may appreciate the attention, but she won't chase it. Because women don't crave what's always within reach, they crave what's rare. When you're always texting, always calling, always explaining, you strip away the very thing that stirs desire, mystery. The man who can sit in silence, who can go hours or days without seeking reassurance, who doesn't feel the need to overexpose himself, that man becomes a presence she can't shake. Not because he's playing games, but because he's full enough within himself not to offer his soul cheaply. Rarity is power, not in being unavailable for the sake of strategy, but in being so rooted in your mission, your standards, your time, that she realizes attention from you is earned, not given. Be rare in your words, rare in your emotional accessibility, rare in your availability. Because the man who doesn't need to be seen is the one they'll always look for. Scarcity breeds value, and value breeds desire. You've been taught to look for your other half, to believe that without a woman, you are somehow incomplete. That she will fill the emptiness, fix the void, give meaning to the parts of you that feel unfinished. But here's the truth. No woman can complete a man who hasn't yet completed himself. And the moment you seek wholeness in her, you hand her your power. You turn her into your purpose instead of walking in your own. This is where most men fall, not because they're weak, but because they were lied to. Lied to by movies, by culture, by broken ideals of romance that worship dependence and call it love. But real love doesn't come from need. It comes from overflow. It comes when you've built a life so rich, so full of purpose, challenge, discipline, and fire that her presence is a complement to your world, not the center of it. When you stop trying to be completed, you become compelling, because nothing is more attractive than a man who doesn't need her to feel whole. She wants to join a world that's already alive, already thriving, not rescue one that's starving. Don't wait to be chosen. Choose your path. Build your kingdom. And if she's worthy, let her enter it. You don't win her heart by needing her. You win her soul by standing so firmly in your own that she feels its pull without ever being asked. This is the final shift, the one most men never make. Not because they're incapable, but because they've been conditioned to believe love means pursuit, emotion means proof, and affection means approval. But real masculine power doesn't chase, doesn't explain, doesn't beg. It leads. It embodies. It moves. When you detach, it's not coldness, it's clarity. When you say no without guilt, when you walk away without theatrics, when you stop needing to be understood, that's when you become unforgettable. Not because you're withholding love, but because you've mastered it within yourself first. Women follow presence, not persuasion. She feels your vision not because you pitch it, but because you live it. Stop bleeding your worth into her hands and wondering why you feel empty. You're not here to be chosen. You're here to build something so magnetic, so mission-driven, so deeply rooted in purpose that she doesn't just want to be near it, she wants to belong to it. Lead not with longing but with direction. Not with validation but with vision. That's the man she can't forget. The modern man has been sold a story that love is earned through softness, that devotion guarantees desire, and that emotional openness is the key to connection. But life often teaches the opposite. The truth is both more challenging and more liberating. You are not here to be chosen, you are here to become. Become rooted, become immovable, become a man whose value is not tied to female approval, but forged in self-discipline, mission, and clarity. Women don't crave dependence. They're drawn to presence. To a man who is full, not from her validation, but from his own pursuit of excellence. If you build your world with intention, if you cultivate silent strength and emotional autonomy, you won't need to chase, because you will naturally attract. So here's the lesson: stop seeking completion in others. Start creating from within. Be the man who can walk away without looking back, not out of bitterness, but because his vision is forward-facing. Be the one whose standards are high because his self-respect is higher. That's not just how you win in love, it's how you reclaim your life. Not by being chosen, but by choosing yourself fully, relentlessly, unapologetically.